Welcome back to BetterAvecBourbon. Today we'll be making two essential Tiki liqueurs, Falernum, this nuclear green liqueur you see here, thanks to the amount of lime zest involved, and Allspice Dram, sometimes called Pimento Dram. These liqueurs can be purchased, but I live in Canada, and yeah, let's just say the LCBO leaves some to be desired when it comes to Tiki ingredients. So what are some common cocktails you find Allspice Dram and Falernum in? For Allspice Dram, it's a core ingredient in 3 dots and a dash, Navy Grog, and Planter's Punch, as well as my Allspice Punch, a Christmas Tiki explosion of flavor. But the chances are you only need one of these liqueurs at a time, so feel free to use the timestamps in the description in order to skip ahead. But we will be starting with Allspice Dram and ending with Falernum. For the Allspice Dram's ingredients, you'll need whole Jamaican allspice, Wray and Nephew Overproof rum, and a weak Demerara syrup for sweetness and dilution. We'll walk through the steps on how to make this using water and Demerara sugar. Add a cinnamon stick. Other tools you need are a stove or an element, and a coffee grinder or pestle and mortar. Gather all of your ingredients and let's get to it. Starting off, grab a coffee grinder or a pestle and mortar or some other tool, then grab a measuring cup and measure out a 1/4 cup of allspice berries. Close it tightly and just pulse it a couple times until you've got everything roughly chopped. Once satisfied, set it to the side, grab another measuring cup or use the same one depending on size. Bring in your bottle of Wray and Nephew, mind your nose hairs, it's a bit strong, and measure 1 cup Overproof white rum. I said 1 cup. Set that to the side, gather a mason jar or another suitable airtight container, a funnel, and bang the lid from your grinder a few times to get some excess dust in there. And then empty your grinder into the mason jar. I prefer to use a large funnel as I tend to make a mess otherwise. Then fill the mason jar with your cup of Wray and Nephew. It will try to settle to the bottom, so it'll need to be shaken regularly, which I'll get into later. Seal it tight and then give it a good shake and then place in the fridge for a week, shaking it daily. On the 7th day, remove it from the fridge, grab your cinnamon stick, present it to the audience, and then snap it in half and drop it in. Seal it shut, shake it well, and then put it in the fridge for another 5 days, for a total of 12 days steeped. On the 12th day, you'll make your weak syrup, get a saucepan, measure out 1 1/3 cups of water, add your lid with a bit of movie magic, and turn the burner up to max as you want your water to come to a boil. Then grab your Demerara sugar and measure 2/3 of a cup of brown sugar, as you want this to be 1 part sugar to 2 parts water, so that it not only sweetens the dram, but also dilutes it. After a few minutes, it'll come to a boil, where you can remove the lid, add your sugar, and start whisking vigorously to incorporate the water and sugar. Turn off your burner. Some recipes say to remove it from the heat during the stirring, but I find there's more sediment than necessary when I follow these instructions. Once incorporated, set your syrup to the side to cool, get another container, I happen to have a lot of mason jars here, and strain your allspice extract. Allow it to drip for a minute or two, then grab a glass bottle, a funnel, and a coffee filter. Filter the rest of your mixture through to remove as much of the sediment as possible. Once the liquid has fully passed through, set the filter to the side and pour in your 1 to 2 Demerara syrup. Things may get sticky, so keep a cloth on hand. Once the syrup has fully passed through, seal it up and give it a good shake to incorporate, and then store in the fridge for 2 days before serving. There you have your Allspice Dram. It's good for 2 months at room temperature and much longer in the fridge, but you may notice the flavor change over time. If you notice there's a lot of sediment still floating once everything's settled, feel free to strain it through a coffee filter once or twice. Next, let's make the Falernum. Shout out to Anders Eriksson as I've adapted his recipe. Get a cutting board, and for ingredients you'll need a bottle of Wray and Nephew, and or another bottle of white rum depending on your fancy, 12 whole cloves, nutmeg, a vanilla bean with seeds, ginger, 8 limes, toasted almonds, mine are very lightly salted but feel free to go unsalted, and white sugar. There will be a lot of preparation with this one, but the final flavor is delightful. For other tools, you'll need a knife or two, a mason jar, a microplane, and a scale. Once you've got all your ingredients, start by rough chopping your almonds. It will make a mess, so have a large surface to work on. And then scrape them into your mason jar. Ideally more efficiently than myself. Set it to the side, and then get to work on getting the zest of your 8 limes. We don't want the juice, just the zest. We don't want the juice, just the zest, but be sure to juice them and store them in the fridge to avoid unnecessary waste. I highly recommend getting a pair of gloves, such as these no-cry gloves. They come in very handy when peeling, zesting, or using a mandolin. This is the most tedious part by far, but the fresh lime zest adds so much brightness and lovely color. Add the zest to your mason jars as you go, and if possible, use a bench scraper to get all the little bits of almond and lime zest together into your mason jar. Fiddle with your cutting board and then grab a baking scale and cut roughly 16 grams sliced ginger. Once you've hit 16 grams, use a knife or a bench scraper to mulch it up on a cutting board and scrape it into your mason jar. Set the jar to the side and move on to your nutmeg. We need about a half tablespoon freshly grated nutmeg, so very inefficiently we'll microplane the nutmeg into our tablespoon. I got a little extra, but it can't hurt. We'll call it 3/4 of a tablespoon all in. Then grab your vanilla bean, cut it in half vertically, and scrape the seeds out. Add the seeds, dice half the bean, and add them to your jar. Next, add your 12 cloves, and then measure 2/3 of a cup of Wray and Nephew Overproof rum. I actually ran out at the half cup mark, so I rounded it out with 1/3 of a cup of 80 proof white rum to balance things out. Bring over your funnel and add the rum to the mixture. Seal it up, shake it well, and put it in the fridge for 24 hours. During that 24 hours, make a cup or 8 ounces of semi-rich simple syrup. Run your Falernum extract through a coffee filter or use a cheesecloth. I found the process with the coffee filter to be quite slow, so using a cheesecloth and wringing the ingredients through would be more efficient. While the extract begins to strain, get a glass bottle you'll store your Falernum in, 1 measuring cup, a funnel, and measure out 1 cup of your semi-rich simple syrup, and add it to your bottle. So satisfying to watch. I noticed my extract needed a bit of coaxing, so to avoid a spill, I moved the syrup, etc. out of the way. Attempt various methods of quickening the filtering process before arriving at using a cheesecloth, and wring the remainder of the extract out. Once satisfied, bring back your syrup and funnel, and pour the Falernum extract on top. Once in, shake well to incorporate. It should be good for an easy 2 to 3 months in the fridge, but since we did use fresh ingredients, it will spoil over time and perhaps change color. So use it and enjoy it in some Tiki classics with your friends. Thanks everyone for watching. Do you have a go-to liqueur recipe or liqueur brand? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, hit that like button, press subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.